all set to begin our next session, Writing for a Visual Medium. You know, there are books that are meant to be read, and then there are those which need to be picturized or dramatized. To discuss this in detail, let me invite our panelists onto the stage, Mr. Nila Panda, Mr. Vikas Swarup, and Ms. Lavin Thadani. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? Mr. Nila Panda's first feature film, the highly acclaimed I Am Kalam, has won 28 international awards, national award, 2 industry award, and several nominations. His second film, Jal Pari, The Desert Mermaid, received the MIP Junior Award for Best Film 2012 Cannes. His last released film, Bablu Happy Hair, based on youth and HIV/AIDS, was critically acclaimed. His much-awaited feature film, Kaun Kitne Pani Mein Hai, is a satire on the water crisis in India and is set to release next year. In 1998, he founded Eleonora Images, a film production house that churns out diverse and cutting-edge films from different corners of India. Mr. Vikas Swarup is an Indian novelist and diplomat, best known for the adaptation of his book Q&A, the novel that inspired the Oscar-winning film Slumdog Millionaire. He's also known for his highly popular book, 6 Suspects. It has sold translation rights in 30 languages. He has participated in literary festivals around the world, and a special mention, it's the second time he's participating at OLF. Can we have a huge round of applause for that as well? Ms. Lavin Thadani, a PhD in Russian literature from the Moscow State University, has spent a period spanning 23 years as a filmmaker, broadcaster, writer, actor, journalist, photojournalist, as well as a lecturer at School of Foreign Languages at JNU. Other than being a filmmaker with over 10 titles to her credit, some of which have come to life at many prestigious international film festivals, including Cannes, she has mostly focused on socially relevant issues like witch hunting and violence against women. She's made a TV series on Maulana Azad, currently being aired on DD Urdu. She has written storybooks for children as well as published a collection of poems in English. May I now request Mr. Nila Panda to chair the session and take it forward. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you, Diksha. Well, indeed, it's such a giant topic. I don't know how much we can cover, but still we will try to touch everything. So when they sent me the topic is writing for visual media, the first thing as a filmmaker which came to my mind was box office. That because everything has turned into 100 crores business today. I wonder because I met some couple of weeks back, I met Abbas Kiarostami, this Iranian filmmaker, and we were talking about the problem of screenwriting in India. You know, why we don't have good scripts, why, you know, the problem he's planning to make a film in India. I said a very interesting thing. He made me understood, I mean, of course, we all know, but he said, he asked me, but then he replied himself saying that, what is the visual expression of this country? A country where in every 100 kilometers, people changes, color changes, culture changes, history changes. And there's so much of literature, so much of novel, everything. And yet, we are finding it difficult. We are struggling to have good writing in our cinemas largely. Cinema, of course, theater is happening, but cinema is become a huge problem because there's no screenwriting. I did about 3 screenwriters lab to get writers from across the country. We used to get like 500, 600 entries. I'll not believe 80% of the stories were copied or, you know, adapted from regional films. You would never get actual strong writing. Then we started asking these new kids, you know, who wanted to be like writers. And the only thing they used to say that we are always scared what we write will be made into a film or not. Why? Because they would first look at whether it can be a box office success or not. What I was telling you in the afternoon, that the fear, if a writer, if a creative person gets scared of putting something in paper, if a painter gets scared of putting something on the canvas and gets scared of the success of it, of the monetary value of it, how will they be successful? So this is one of the biggest struggle what we are facing. I have been literally in every film of mine, I change 3 to 4 writers because they're not confident. They always go and see what will work, which means the trends is basically there is a formula setting which is happening in visual screenwriting. I mean visual writing largely, not in advertising, documentary, because those sections are totally different than what we are saying about this whole cinema thing, Of course, one of the things which we all, as a cinema fraternity, we discuss that why we're not adapting novels or books into cinema. That is another scary thing. Of course, the first biggest success was Q&A. And I was sitting with Simon a couple of years back, and he said it was the easiest book to write as a cinema. So, that is, but today, the writers are scared of books also because whether it will work or not. We go simply pick up a film, copy the film, or get a formula film. Everything is based on, because the star power is so much, our writing is not driving into the original space. We can get into the other discussions, but I would say that we should have our own views about the topic. So, Vikas, if you can start with that.
No, thanks, Nila. I think you have hit upon a very important point, I think, because, I don't watch too many movies, but when I do watch, I find that, what has happened is the market has taken over the medium completely. Everything is now, the touchstone is this 100 crore club, 200 crore club. If you look at the newspapers also, this movie is the fastest to 100 crores or fastest to 200 crores. And the second thing is, nowadays you are actually being forced to watch a particular film. Yeah. I mean, when movies are being released on 4,000 theaters across the country, when you go to a multiplex, you have no other option but to watch that particular film. So I think actually movies are being forced into 100 crore club, even if the content is horrible, because, exactly, because just the fact that, there is no other alternative available and people will watch. And, there is this, of course, brand power and things like that. And I think that's very unfortunate because in Hollywood, what they call property, the story is supreme. But in India, the latest
story comes last.
Story comes last. Happy New Year we just saw, and there is just no story at all in that film. It's just a series of, what should I say, episodes or, sequences. It's actually a whole long item song.
It's all about six-pack and 100 crores.
Exactly. In one scene, Shah Rukh Khan is shown as a boxer, but there is no backstory why he became a boxer, why is he a boxer, will he remain a boxer?
Yeah, that's something. The character development is zero in our cinema for sure.
So I think because, as you rightly said, the word is star power, that just by the fact that you have Shah Rukh and Deepika and, Abhishek and Sonu Sood, six-packs or whatever, will get people into the theater. And whether there is I think now movies, you see earlier, movies like Lavaris and Sholay, whatever, work because of repeat value. People would see the movie 3 times, 4 times. I know a guy who has seen Sholay 27 times.
No, even more, 100 times.
100 times.
People,
so earlier the movies were hits because of the repeat value. But now nobody is bothered about repeat value. Okay, you just get into the screen one time.
Because
and you may hate the film afterwards, but I made my 100 crores.
Right. No, because because they're so repetitive. All our films, most of them are formula films. So there is no repeat value because, you're saturated.
So
it's
the point I think,
but
the point Nila is making is that why aren't films based on stories?
That is one, and secondly, the point that you made, which I really like, is the fear psychosis, and fear is very, very crippling, because if you have a great imagination and a great story, and suddenly you say, oh my God, this is not going to do well. So that's the end of it. And human imagination is so rich, and in India, as we were talking, at every step you have a story. So there is no character development, there is no proper story development, there is no justification to half the stuff that we see in the cinema. So therefore, I think even bright young writers who can churn out fantastic stories, they're crippled by this fear that it may not do well.
But it may be also because the way the present society is growing. Because I remember in my childhood, we grew up in a village where you leave in the morning 10 o'clock and you go to the mountain, river, everywhere you explore. I'm not a writer, I'm a visual storyteller. But that has influenced me to make good films probably today. And the parents are not scared that whether what time you'll come back or something will happen.
Right.
But today,
Right.
if you see how much pressure we give it to a child, that
Absolutely.
they literally lives with so much of pressure that there's traffic, terrorism, this, that, and we don't give them that space for them to
For
explore.
growth and for
How will they
development,
write those
yeah.
stories if you
Yes.
go in deeper into that?
Right,
It's not
right.
only 100 crores, what I mean, you
Right,
know.
right.
No, I agree.
But the saddest part is that economy is ruling the roost. You know, it is all about money making and more money making. So films like Kalam or, you know, such lovely, simple, beautiful films, I'm glad you did well. But at the same time, how many people like you are there in the industry? There are very few. You have to have that courage of conviction that come what may, I'm going to stick to my story, and come what may, I'm going to make it my way. Minute you start compromising, there is no end to compromise.
I'll tell you, it doesn't happen because that's the reason I haven't signed a film. I mean, my
Yes,
own
that's
perception with the
exactly
studio,
my point,
because
yeah.
you take a script to a studio and then a 1-year-old MBA student will come and say that, you know what you could do? Let the hero jump from the 3rd floor and touch the heroine.
Yeah.
You know, and you have this is a country, you have the most, most exaggerating way of visual storytelling. लड़का लड़की को प्यार करता है, पीछे 10 लौंडे नचा दो, पीछे 10 लड़की नचा दो, और
it's
प्यार हो
terrible.
गया.
It's
So if
terrible.
that is the way,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm sorry, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
but you know, end of the day, this is where we are driving. If you see
Yeah.
the way the films, you know, sometime back when Satya and company, all those films started, that revolution in Bollywood, what we say, the new age Bollywood film started, we thought some changes will happen in cinema. But now we're back in square. We're picking up not even Hindi films. We're picking up those Tamil, Telugu films, and they're ruling the country
Making
today.
remakes,
And all the
yeah.
big star films are
Yeah,
Tamil, Telugu.
yeah.
Even if it's original Hindi films, it is influenced by those. I mean, let's say that I'm proud because I grew up with Bollywood cinema. I'm not against it. Bollywood cinema is fantastic. It's a great way of storytelling, you know. But we have lost that also. It has become South Indian films, what we call. I mean, I'm not dismissing anybody,
Yeah, I
but
mean, we have had Guru Dutt and Raj
Exactly.
Kapoor, and we have had Satyajit Ray. We have had so many fantastic directors. But in today's date, there are very few you can count on your fingertips who are actually committed to cinema, to good storytelling, good visuals, and something that, you know, after seeing you feel enriched. You come out of the auditorium feeling, yes, it was worth my time, worth the effort, and at the same time, it has given me something. You know, I'm taking back home a thought, an emotion, something that I can dwell upon, something that gives me a kind of growth. That is not happening. And I think somewhere we are also to be blamed as audience, that we just go and see anything and everything. Like you're saying, same film across the country, you have no choice or very little choice. So what is the best means of outing in India is a movie.
But
so you go and see it.
there's the other side of the story. What Vikas said in the beginning also, that today when they make a film, 100 crores film, they literally reach out to your toilet, kitchen, everywhere to force you to see the film. It's
Yeah.
almost selling drugs.
Yeah, but who is forcing us? Who is
It's-
forcing us?
Yeah, it's the people.
I mean, if today I make a choice, I'm not going to go and see it, I won't see it. No? So why am I being, what is the inertia? What is pulling me to go there? Nothing. I just do it because it has also become a deep-rooted conditioning. It has become a habit that we have to go and see every new film. Why? Why do we do that? I think somewhere we are also responsible. And if we start dictating to the market, like all your good painters, you know, paintings that used to sell for 500 bucks are selling for 5 crores. So they dictate to the market. Art should dictate to the economy, not the other way around. You know, I think that is very important. Right now, it's all economics.
Yeah.
Art should dictate. And then we will get the right kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, that I would say that the time will change, probably the saturation space what we are looking at. And in fact, 5-6 years there was a big session in FICCI. They said Bollywood will bomb in about another 7 years. And we're reaching another 2 years. Let's see what will happen. Of course, economy, everything is driven by the economy. But one more thing which I would really like to know is why there's not much of films from books, because books are, when you read a book, you enjoy more than a cinema probably. And I don't know, I mean, if you have ever had...
No, I think, the problem is that just as we have this film culture in India, we don't have a book culture.
Exactly,
People, I mean, in India, people do not read as many books as they should be reading relative to our population, even relative to our literacy statistics. I mean, the fact of the matter is, 10 years ago, 3,000 was a bestseller. Now maybe it's 10,000, but even 10,000 is ridiculous for a country of,
this
if we have 300 million or 400 million middle class, then, it's ridiculous that 10,000 copies makes a bestseller. So I think we are not reading enough. And then what are we reading also? I think that is again, so it's again the market, And those kinds of books then immediately get converted into films also, because they say, 1 million people have read the book, so at least 1 million people will see the movie at least. So the problem is we are getting into a vicious cycle.
Yes.
And we have to convert it into a virtuous cycle.
Right.
Because I think, as both of us have discussed, India is a land of a billion stories. And there are stories in every nook and corner of the country. And really, we can make socially relevant cinema also, which can be entertaining, which I Am Kalam was, for instance, So it's not as if, look at Kahani, for instance.
Yes.
That was a film with a complete story arc, and it was entertaining, and it was commercially successful. So it's not as if that, art house movie has to show a swing going back and forth for 2.5 minutes and people will walk out of the theater.
Right.
You can do a proper art house film which has, good commercial value as well, in the sense that which can keep people engaged.
Right.
I think Slumdog Millionaire was one of those films where critics also loved it and audience also loved it. So it can be done. The thing is, do we have the courage? Do our filmmakers have the courage? Do our distributors, do our producers have the courage to sort of fund these kinds of films?
And as for, your question about our reading habits, you talked about it. Why is it that we don't read enough? I think also because right from childhood, we have this stereotype, this guy is going to be a doctor, this guy is going to be an engineer. Future is planned. And if you're getting into engineering, then you're not supposed to even read, anything other than which is relevant to your subject. I think that is what is really missing in our country. I grew up abroad, and I know for sure, like I was sharing with Madhab, I got into a cab in Moscow, and this guy asked me, where are you from? I said, India. So he said, oh, so Premchand. And he started talking about Premchand's stories. Then he switched to Jack London. And I was so shocked. I said, minute I reached home, I told my dad, give me all the literature you have, because, I'll cut a sorry figure. I have not read the entire collection of Premchand's stories. I have read a few. And this guy was talking about characters. He was talking about our culture, our environment. So because I'm a student of literature, so I would read literature. I will take absolutely no or zero interest in science or in environment or anything else, because that's not my subject. Fact is that every subject belongs to us. It's only a matter of inculcating the right habits in our children, that please read everything that is good. It doesn't have to be, if you're a lawyer, you just read law books. So I think that is what is missing, which you don't find missing abroad,
Well, you got into a very good cab driver, a cab, because I got into a cab in New York, and the cab driver said, where are you from? So I said, I'm from India. He says, how did you come here? So
no, but that is the difference
I didn't come on an
between
elephant.
Russia
So
and
then
America.
he says, India, is it like a province of China? So
No. Americans, you can trust them to say that, but in Russia, it's the other way around. They are so well read that they will amaze you with their knowledge.
That's also slightly based on the economic driven, because when we were children, in the summer vacation only you are allowed to read novels and the stories. Otherwise they will say that you will fail in the class. What will you do? You will not get a job. So everything is your
everything is economy driven again. You will not get a job, so how do you survive?
But the interesting part is, imagine an audience, a population who knows storytelling from mother's womb. because दादी नानी की कहानी से लेके हमको कहानी सुनने सुनाना, it was like our habit. We are born with that.
Yes.
And every audience is a critics. Ask anybody, Riksha Puller, even he can comment on a film, aisa hota, waisa hota, and all that. So writing for this audience is actually a very tough thing also, which is why we have created that division between art house cinema and commercial cinema. So, whoever comes and asks me that, acha, tumhara next film commercial hai kya? Bola, what? My last film, my first film, Mayam Kalam, we put 2.5 crores, we made 28 crores. So it is the biggest commercial film you would ever hear. I mean, it has made more money than probably Happy New Year in terms of ratio. So everything is, even for audience, they, of course, art house cinema bana rahe, award mil raha hai, theek hai, clap kar denge, but after that what? So when we take a project, today when, somebody comes, the first they see the commercial point of view. Now, coming back to the next question is, why, India can't have, because there are a lot of, in New York and other cities, there are a lot of art house theaters, where if you make a art house cinema also, it runs. There is a parallel movement which runs independent cinema, art house cinema. So that is also stopping now, because the only organization which we had was NFDC, which is not happening much. How should that drive, if you can give us a light on that?
No, there I think change the definition of art house cinema. That's what I said. You cannot show a swing going back and forth for 2.5 minutes. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have to engage the audience. If you make a film which, basically leaves the audience totally cold, they don't understand it, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, they don't relate to it. Then what's the point of that cinema?
You have to move with time.
Because it becomes a very vanity project, that it's something that only the director understands, the audience has been left cold, the distributors also are not going to touch this thing.
It can be a great story.
So that's what I'm saying. It has to be a combination. I think a great story is a great story will always work. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Unless, as I said, the director completely messes it up, then it's a different matter. But a good story, I think, is something which will always keep. A good story means that the audience is engaged. That's the definition of a good story.
Absolutely. Rest you leave to the director, how he is going to project a good
So I think
story.
that's what I'm saying. I think if we can have this mix, where the director picks up a good story and does it in an engaging and a very interesting manner, and the film does well, then we create that virtuous cycle.
Right.
Then more people will start looking at original material.
Then there will be many more NFDCs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's also, that's what happened in Europe also. Europe, when in mid-90s, when cinema literally started falling in and everything was about the horror and thriller, they started writing new films and it was not happening. Then the Dogma movement started in Denmark. All these small films, the ideology of the films was largely how you express without money, because nobody was ready to pay. No studio, no producers were coming on board. And that movement went to literally village after village. What we used to do earlier, taking films to the villages,
Yes.
And that's where they started collecting money. And a similar movement can probably work in a country like ours, because we love stories. We love looking
India
at stories.
loves stories, and India has so many stories.
And I
Every
think,
inch you have a new story.
and I think I was discussing with Nila, maybe technology is the key. You see, so far, the negative cost was what would, deter people from making films, because, the negative cost itself would be 30-40 lakhs, and each print would cost 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
So how do you, but now with digital camera, I mean, the problem is anybody can become a filmmaker now.
Yes.
The democratization of
just know,
filmmaking can be a good thing and can be a bad thing, because there may not be quality controls. But you have the platforms available. Anybody can shoot a movie now, upload it on YouTube, and people can watch it.
Right.
So at least from that point of view, I think it's a good thing that at least more creative voices can be heard.
Well, that revolution has already started. If you see YouTube, through YouTube, a lot of these new age filmmakers, we used to have a lot of the short films competitions, and then now in YouTube there are people have different channels and they're making a little bit of money from YouTube now. That is
And
the
at least
revolution.
they're getting an expression, which is the most important.
Exactly.
They can make their own little films, they can upload them, and
No,
then you
absolutely.
can download them and you can see
I-
them, watch them again and again.
I had gone to the Cairo Film Festival and I met this young Indian director who had made a film on the stock market scam called Ghafla. And he says, I put my entire money into this, all my savings went into this, I made a beautiful film. And I made the film, I completed the film. He says, I didn't find a distributor. He says, Manmohan Shetty financed me for 25 prints, and beyond that, I just did not. So the movie just didn't get released because eventually it's not just about making the film, it's how do you get the distribution.
But that has become the bigger challenge
That is the
today.
bigger problem, really.
That is a huge challenge.
That has
absolutely.
become the
Yeah.
bigger challenge for us also, because the satellite market, which used to pay a lot of money to Hindi cinema, has gone to nothing today. The films which used to get about 2 crores, 3 crores, has come down to 5 lakhs even. You know why? We really recently found out it is all because of the dubbed film from South India.
All because of?
Dubbed film from
Dubbed film
South
from South
India.
India.
Okay.
They dub the film and they sell it in 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs. They have remake
Yeah, so
versions
then why do
and
they need
rights.
any new films?
No, now,
Dubbing is so much cheaper, of course. Yeah.
no, but which is why I think the new generation has to focus on the new style of writing and finding the alternative way to take it out to the public, which is whether YouTube or iTunes, or these are the best places where you can make little money and survive yourself and tell a story.
Yeah, and also I feel that, we have to give due to Bollywood in a way that it has unified the country in a very big way. Any part of India you go to, everyone is watching Bollywood. And thanks to that, at least there is some understanding of language and there is communication happening. So that has been a very big contribution of Bollywood, I feel. But at the same time, this repetitive formula films and the star culture, where you don't see fresh faces, you don't see any freshness happening. That is what is really bringing us down.
We
in
don't
Bollywood.
see the 70% of India. The rural India is
Yeah,
not
rural
even
India
touched
is,
on
yeah,
Bollywood
yeah,
cinemas.
that's
In fact,
true.
my prediction is by 2050, all your actors and actresses will be sons or daughters of film stars.
Yeah, that is what is already happening. That is already happening. Yeah. So then where is the opportunity for new talent, new children coming into the cinema? They have very little chance.
It is.
So it is going to be like a little colony, dominated by a few people, and that's it. So how does the new talent enter?
It's not only the star, it's behind the camera also, it's similar scene, So we know.
No,
Yeah.
directors, there's a
For
lot of
directors,
democratization. I'm
It is
finding,
there.
lots of new voices are coming in
Yeah.
direction. But,
Yeah.
in terms of the actors, among the lead stars, it's all sons and daughters now.
Now, how do you say if a new generation writer wanted to write, is there, any form of writing would you tell or advise to new generation writers?
You see, the thing is, when you say writing for the visual medium, then you mean a screenplay, basically. Because, you cannot, many people say that, do you write for the film? And I say, no, I write a book. And a book is a book. Yes, it's a different matter that the book may appeal to a, visual filmmaker, that it has some visual elements or whatever. But if I start writing a book in the hope that it will become a film, then neither will I write a good book and neither will it become a good film.
That's right.
So there are a lot of new books looks like screenplay these days.
Yes, but that is a mistake. I think then if you really want your book to be a film, then you write a screenplay. Yeah. My second book, for instance, it's called Six Suspects, and it's a murder mystery. And I never thought that, even for a moment, that this book can become a film, because, the most difficult book to film is a murder mystery, because in a book you can disguise the murderer, but a film is in your face. How do you disguise the murderer, unless it's a Benam kind of a person, you spring out at the end and, he's not there in the book at all. So it was a difficult, but, people in Hollywood and in BBC, they said, no, this is a cinematic potential and we would love to make it. So then it's their choice.
Right.
But at least it was not that I was forcing them into a particular direction,
Right.
that no, this is going to be a very good
you made
film.
a very important point, because human imagination is unlimited. One emotion you can go on describing, or layers of one emotion in hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
But when it comes to cinema, you can't do that. Your audience would just walk out. They'll get so bored with it. So therefore, writing has no limitations. You would agree with that.
I agree totally.
But cinema has its own limitations. You're a filmmaker yourself.
No, Simon
Well,
told me. Simon said, he says that, look, you are lucky that you are a writer. You can write what you want to write. He says screenplay writing is writing by committee.
Yes.
Somebody says put in sex, somebody says put in action, somebody says, cut this out, put
Yes,
that in.
yes,
So
yes,
the screenplay writer has to be dictated by, the demands of the producers,
Right.
of
It is in
Director.
fact, yeah, it is a difficult writing, because I as a director, the director dominates so much to the writer, because cinema writing is about character, that character movement, visualization, drama in it, and the consequences. So it's not easy for that writer, because he has to also consider the production designing to music and everything. It is not a book writing where you don't feel the music and
cinema
writing about that.
essentially survives and thrives on conflict. Unless there is a conflicting situation and how you get out of it, there is no story really happening. And I think the main thing about cinema is that you're working with so many limitations, your finance, your cast, your location, your technical crew. So you have everybody. If you want more people, you may not be able to afford. If you want to shoot for another 1 week, you may not be able to afford. So you're actually walking a very tight rope all the time that you have to finish, and now you have to do it.
Well, that's really the truth. It's very funny because sometimes the writer writes 3 scenes and we say that, yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time, money on this, cut it down.
Exactly.
You literally take out that to cut down your cost.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing that can happen to any writer, which should not happen, especially to people like you who are so creative, is that, you're dictated to. Write a story which will have this. So you've already been told these are the masalas, just mix them, churn out a dish and give it to us. Oh, it's fragrant, it has this, it'll do well. So then where is the writer? How can you dictate to a creative person that these are your limitations and you can't use your imagination or very little of it, and you just give us what we want?
Right.
And writers succumb to that. Writers should say, no, this is my story, take it or leave it. Minute we start doing that, the whole scenario will start changing. We'll have creativity, we'll have cinema, we'll have the kind of stuff that we want to watch, not something that is just being given to us to swallow.
Absolutely.
So I think the challenge is, I feel that we are far more responsible for what is happening. Because we're debating here, but we also have to take responsibility for where we are going wrong. Why are the writers saying, okay, I will do this, you're giving me 5 grand, okay, you're giving me 5 crores, I will do this for money. Why are you doing it for money? You can't sell your imagination for money. Yes, it's your story, you're selling it, fine. It's your original story. It deserves the reward you want to get. But not when you're being dictated to. You're not a slave to creativity. You have to have your own urge, your own expression. You can't be told what to do. So I think the slavery bit, even in the audience, acha ye nahi film aayi hai, let's go and see it. Why? Why should you go and see it? First you read about it. What is the story? What is happening?
Well,
is it worth your 3 hours and $1,000, or it is not? I'd much rather sit and read a good book than go and see a trash film. For what? Just to have some popcorn and Coke.
Well, that's what the problem with the critics also, because there is no cinema criticism in this country.
Yeah.
It is business criticism.
Yes, it is business.
For, I won't name, but for this, all those stupid big commercial films gets 5-star also, because all influenced by money.
Yes.
So for the audience, they can't judge what they want to see even. You're influencing them so much, the way they're driven to the theater.
That's right.
No, I think the key is really that, the good thing is there are filmmakers like you, Anurag Kashyap, Vishal Bharadwaj, people who are at least committed to a particular way of storytelling and for whom story is supreme. So the important thing is, as Lavin rightly said, Bollywood has its own users. And as I said, I'm a diplomat and I have used Bollywood as India's soft power. Because, when you go to Ethiopia or you go to Shanghai or you go to Russia, you see Indian films, being sung by songs being sung by people and things like that. So that's there, and it should have its own place. I have nothing against that. It should not be the only narrative. That's the only point. Yeah. That India being such a diverse land, there should be lots of multiple narratives at different
theatre?
planes.
What about theatre as well,
But it's, if you see theatre, especially, what we're talking, Bombay, Indore, Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, where theatre is, nationally there is no theatre movement.
Right.
That's something which probably, and largely, you would know better about theatre, but I think that's something also the new generation has to see, how we can bring that out. And theatre influences a lot to cinema. Like what you say in Russia, there's so much of theatre.
Yeah, because in Russia, I feel, right from childhood, from this age, culture is a very, very important element of the growth. They go to theatre, they go to opera, they go to all the good films. You know, they're exposed. So they grow up with it. Even if you are a pilot, you would love to go to, see a good play or a good film or go to circus. But here it is only Bollywood. So I'm right now working with Mr. M.S. Satyu. We're doing a play on Amrita Preetham, where I play Amrita. And Satyu Saab is 84 years old. And he made Garam Hawa, which was a classic, and it's getting re-released again. But what I'm saying is that at 84, this gentleman is still totally committed to theatre. He makes no money or very little money on it, but you should see the passion, with which he makes the sketches. He's basically an art director, sketches for the sets, the way he improvises, the freedom that he gives to his artists to express. Like I told him once, I said, Satyu Sahab, at this point I feel like getting up and saying my lines. He said, do that, who is stopping you? So he's not the kind of director who would, he is so committed. And I feel that is what is lacking somewhere today. Everything is fast. Let's quickly do this, quickly do that, quickly do. So that commitment, deep-rooted commitment to a form of art, be it theatre, be it cinema, be it poetry. And, fora like these, I have to definitely thank, Indian Express for creating this kind of an environment where we can debate these subjects and maybe take back some thoughts home and implement them in future. Why is it that we are not promoting theatre? Why is it that we are not promoting the right kind of cinema? Where are we going wrong? And what can we do collectively? There can be only one Satyajit Ray. But if we come together as a force, as people who are thinking, who are intellectuals, and do something, make a difference, then India will definitely transform,
Well, the challenges for cinema, visual writing, I would say it starts with, if you go backward actually, is a release date. Recently, a French film released, which was a very interesting English independent cinema. They made it 4 years back, waited for 2 years, finally somebody took it, and they said, okay, we have a fantastic release date, only 2 films coming, let's do that. By the day of release they reached, there were 24 films, English, Marathi, regional, this, that. And they said, then the producer actually signed 2 films with this director. He said, I can't do the films because the film didn't work. So the blame of to the writer and director also comes because of your box office, release date, the pressure of bigger films and everything,
But then in every field we have pressures.
Well,
we can't keep succumbing to pressures. We have
the challenge for these writers and directors is really big, because this writing, ultimately what is affecting? It is nothing but somebody's skill of, that artist's skill of writing is affected by the economic driven industry. So is cinema is a piece of art or a piece of showpiece which is just about making money?
No, there I would agree with Vikas, marry the two. It should be a film that has a certain pace, because our life has a certain speed, a certain pace, you have to match with it. You can't have a very slow film where people would go off to sleep. So if you marry the two, a great story and a great way of telling it through cinema, then of course, like you quoted Kahani, it was a very nice film, it was a clean film, and yet it kept you on your seat. You didn't want to leave the hall. So I think marrying the two is very, very important, the commercial element and as well as, the creative element.
Well, in fact, that's what is happening, that's what is growing now, which is what we call world cinema today, a cinema which works in India as well as in every country.
Right.
So anyway, I think...
Look at Lagan. Lagan was so great.
Yeah.
Lagan was such a
got a
fantastic
signal now. So thank you so much, both
Thank
of you.
you,
And
thank you.
it's open to the audience now. If you have any questions, please.
Writing story, whether besides entertainment, whether it should have a message to the society for a permission. That's
Sorry, come again?
For the writing is for a society, should have a message to the society for reformation or limited to entertainment.
Well, I think for a writer or a filmmaker, they're making a film. It doesn't matter whether there is a message or not. It is about that piece of art, what are you looking at, right?
It's for you to find that message.
Yeah.
Because each one's perception is different.
Hello everyone, I'm Kasturi Bose Goswami, and this question goes to all these stalwarts on the stage. Well, continuing with the theme that was being discussed here, narrative to celluloid. There's a small question. This is the controversial book 50 Shades of Grey, the trilogy by E.L. James, which was released in, say, 2011. Now, the moment it was released, it took the whole world by storm. So people had qualms carrying it either in the hand or in the backpacks to come out with the voices. And then we know E.L. James herself is a woman. Now, in 2015, February 14th, Valentine's Day, the first part is going to release. So, as filmmakers, just a small question. How do you foresee the reception of the movie as compared to the book?
Well, that nobody predicts. Cinema is something we say that nobody can predict whether it will work or not. Because for me, I would still say that Q&A was a fantastic reading than the film. Not because he's sitting here, but I would still say that the book was a much better thing to go through than looking at the film. Of course, it's a great experiment to bring it to the film, and it worked fantastic all over the world. For something like this, what is that, Moonlight, it worked fantastic on cinemas, then as a book, but this is, Twilight. So, this is something which I would say that it, if you read that, it looks as a great cinema. So probably it will work better in cinemas than book. You never know,
Well, we never know because it comes from the genre called erotic fiction.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if the book took the world by storm, probably it will set fire when it comes on the screen.
And end of the day, how the filmmaker is given treatment to the film, you don't know. Till you don't see, you can't say about something like this.
Lot depends upon how you translate it onto the visual medium. Absolutely. It may be a fantastic book, but if you have not done a great job of treatment, then obviously it will fall flat. And sometimes the book is weak, the story is weak, but the way it's told and performed can enhance the value of that story. So a lot depends.
Twilight probably made a lot of difference because Stephanie Meyer herself, she was there on the sets foreseeing the direction that took place.
That makes a difference,
yes,
of course, that makes a difference.
Yes,
This 50 Shades of Grey, the book has sold, 10 million copies or something like that.
Exactly.
So there's already a buzz about the book, and therefore there's a buzz about the film. So the filmmakers, whoever took the rights, has already, half the battle is already won because the marketing has already been done. The very fact that you in Odisha are asking a question to us about a book, which is the movie version will come out next year, means that they have hit the bullseye as far as the marketing part is concerned. Now, the book itself was not very great. I think nobody will call it high fiction or literary fiction or anything like that at all. It's about sex, and sex always sells. So my sense is...
Visually it sells more.
The movie, I don't know what's the Hollywood equivalent of the 100 crore club or whatever it is, but I think it will definitely do very well because there also it's about marketing, marketing is to get the people inside the theater. After that, whether it's crap or not, they've made their money. So my sense is that the film will also be a hit as the book was.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question here. Can I?
Yeah, sure.
It's about the 100 crore club that we were talking about. Movies which are, say, mindless movies or movies which sell, formula movies. Do you agree? My question is that the contention is that these movies sell only because people don't have a choice or because they are thrust on us. If we were given better movies, we would watch them. Isn't one of the reasons why these movies are such super successes is because for many people in India, going to the films is an escape from reality. So all the hyperbole, all the exaggeration, is that the reason why it sells? They want to see a superhero. They don't want to see a tawdry, sad, dull life. They want to see something which is larger than life. Isn't that why?
Can I have that? people always have a choice. They don't make the choice. You always have a choice of whether you want to go there or not. But you choose to go there because you haven't kind of explored the other avenues in your life. I'm sure cinema is not the only means of entertainment. There's so many other things that you can do with your time and use it creatively. So I don't agree with, this philosophy of that you don't have a choice. We always make a choice. So it is up to us what kind of choice we make. And if we want to just get away from boredom and go and sit in a hall and watch any kind of a film, then I think we pay the price for it. If we enjoy it, well and good. Otherwise, we have wasted good 3-4 hours of our precious life, for what I don't know.
No, there's little difference here because for Indians, of course, cinema and TV is the larger entertainment. I mean, I would rather say it's the only entertainment for 90% of the people.
Yes, that's
So
true.
they actually don't have other choices.
Yeah.
And they do not go to see a film for its aesthetic value or anything, but pure entertainment.
But it's high time we made other choices.
No,
Indeed.
We explored
No,
other
but there
choices.
also, I mean, the point she was making was that yes, we like this mindless kind of entertainment where nice song and dance is happening, something is. You can do that with a good script also. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah,
I mean, look at
exactly.
Lavaris, look at Sholay. I mean, they were also, Bollywood pot boilers, but they had a storyline.
Right.
Sholay had a fantastic storyline, in fact.
Right.
Lavaris had a fantastic storyline. So the thing is, you can do it with a storyline also and have your Nach Gana and things like that. So, and that would be a better thing because then, that would have a repeat value also. Because there is no way that, you would just go and just, unless there is a particular item song that people want to hear,
Or even
that
Diwali.
without a story, nobody would want to repeat a film.
Right.
Well, you have all those Raju Hirani's film, all those
And
Munna
Raju
Bhai
Hirani is a
series,
prime example. I'm pretty sure I'm looking
finest
forward to PK because he's, I think, the best. I think he's the one who understands the audience sensibilities. He gives Three Idiots, I think, was a perfect film.
Yeah, it was a
It was
very
an
good
absolutely perfect film. I think not even 2 minutes of that movie is a drag, It just, the story keeps on flowing and flowing and flowing and you keep getting something new and the revelation at the end is absolutely fantastic. So I think Raju Hirani is a prime example of someone who can give you a great story and great storytelling also,
Yes. So, thank you.
Just I have a point for Mr. Swarup. He talked about great storyline, making great films. Sometimes great filmmakers and great storylines do not make great films. The best example is Ardha Satya. It was Ardha Satya, the epoch-making movie that bagged the President's Award. The movie was made by a camera person called Gobind Nihalni, who was never into writing or something, directing a film. But the movie startled many great filmmakers. So what you need is not a great storyline, you need a great inspiration. Sometimes great filmmakers may not be there to make great movies. An ordinary filmmaker can do great movies. Another thing, great storylines are also failures in great movies. Best example is Guide. The day Guide was released, R.K. Narayan wrote in Times of India, "My misguided guide." The entire storyline was changed in the movie. The ending scene, the person, the so-called fake sadhu is telling, "Here comes the rain." Actually, he know that it's not raining. He was apprehending that rain is there, and he died. But you see in the movie, people are dancing with the rain, etc. A similar.
No, that's a very valid point you are making because you see the mediums are different. I mean, a book is a book and a film is a film, and that how you translate that. I mean, the real beauty is in the translation, and a lot is lost in translation, and a lot should be lost in translation. A film cannot be a visual reproduction of the book. Should not be a visual reproduction.
It
of the book.
cannot be.
I mean, many people say Midnight's Children, the film, did not do well at all because it was too literal an interpretation of the book. And that is the problem because when you are doing it for a different medium, then you have to introduce some more elements. I mean, a film does not have music, a film does not have dance. A film is very much in your face.
Its own grammar.
Doesn't say a book does not have these things. Film has these things, so it has its own grammar, it has its own vocabulary, and I think that's the way it should be. And I think the best attitude for a writer towards the film adaptation of his book should be what Su Tong told me in Shanghai, that of a distant relative. That the film adaptation of your work is your relation to it should be that of a distant relative. If it works, he's my relative. If it doesn't work, I don't know this person at all.
That's a good one.
Shall I answer?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sir, I have
Thank
a
you very
question
much,
here.
Madhab.
I think we'll have to move to the next session, I'm sorry. So may I now, please ma'am, may I now request the editorial director of the New Indian Express, Mr. Prabhu Chawla, to please come on stage and present mementos to our esteemed panelists.